What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. So this is going to be at a different move for album discussions. What I'm going to be doing for this episode is to talk about the favourites, the main favourites and least favourites songs from an album from a big discography. And the perfect band for me that immediately made me think onto this particular topic is Black Sabbath. I'm going to be doing the same thing with other bands who have small or big discographies, so please let me know what your favourite song and least favourite song is on each album from Black Sabbath down in the comments below. So let's get started. So the first album onto this discography, Black Sabbath's classic debut album, and my favourite track on this self-titled album, I would have to say it is NIB. I absolutely adore this song, and basically a love song with Lucifer, and it's super catchy. I would have put Black Sabbath as my favourite, but NIB always resonates with me the most from this whole album. And my least favourite, it has to be the Evil Woman track, because while I really do think it is a good track, it's not one of those songs that always really blows me away or that I would repeat very much. So not bad of a song, but it is, to me, my least favourite. So anyways, with the debut album by Black Sabbath, NIB is the winner, and my least favourite is Evil Woman. The seminal secondary album, Paranoid. Now, I'll have to say that I am really getting so sick and bored with Iron Man, to be brutally honest with you, and really Paranoid is very overrated, but my favourite is War Pigs. It's powerful, it's relevant, has some of the best guitar solos of all time, and it's just an aggressive nature of a track. And my least favourite, if I have to really pick, I guess it would have to be possibly Rat Salad. Even though Bill Ward is one of my favourite drummers of all time, Rat Salad is a very impressive drum solo, but it's not one of those tracks that I personally would select as like one of the best in the sound of Black Sabbath's repertoire. So, there you go, Rat Salad. Favourite, War Pigs. Least favourite, Rat Salad. The next album, Master of Reality. My favourite, it always has to go to Sweet Leaf. I absolutely still love Sweet Leaf. The rest of the album is great, although I will still say that the negative on this album is it's too short. But my least favourite, I would have to personally pick maybe, well, if I have to really choose, because there are other brilliant songs on this album, my least favourite is possibly Orchid. I think it's a decent instrumental, but I really do think that Embryo is stronger, and that is a brilliant piece to begin the next track. So there you go, with Master of Reality. This is the deluxe edition, by the way. My least favourite is Orchid, and my favourite is Sweet Leaf. The next album, Volume 4. Now, my favourite personally used to be, I think, Supernaut. I love a lot of this album, but my favourite would have to go to Snowblind, but Supernaut is still a very close second. And my least favourite, personally, it will have to be FX. It's just a random set of noises with the delay and just guitar tappings, and it's not really that special. Classic album still, but it has to really go to Snowblind as my favourite on this album. The next record, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. My favourite on here, I will have to say, this is going to be a bit difficult for me to choose because the title track is really strong. I love Fluff, and even Who Are You? But my favourite, I think, would have to be Sabracadabra. Sabracadabra is my favourite on here. And my least favourite could possibly be A National Acrobat. Even though that the whole album is very, very good. But I just think that looking forward today to Spiral Architect, these types of songs I prefer over A National Acrobat. So anyways, with Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, my favourite still being Sabracadabra, least favourite being A National Acrobat. Now, my favourite Black Sabbath album of all time, Sabotage. My favourite is Megalomania. It's my new favourite Black Sabbath song of all time. War Pigs used to be the #1, but Megalomania, every time I play that track, it's just doomy at the start, then it's just full of energy, with some of Ozzy's best ever vocals. And my least favourite, I would have to really think that my least favourite, even though I really do like it, I think it has to go to The Thrill of It All. I know that that's a bit of a shocker. I know people will say, am I going insane? But I love that song, and I even love Super Tsar. Thrill of It All is my least favourite. Not one of these tracks that I would really choose as like one of the top 3 from this album. Because it would have to be, I'll have to say, Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe, and Megalomania. Besides the other ones I love. So there you go. Megalomania, my favourite. My least favourite is The Thrill of It All. The next album, Technical Ecstasy, which is very underrated, and it is one of my favourite Sabbath albums. My favourite is, I will have to say Dirty Women. It used to be You Won't Change Me, but I think Dirty Women is, to me, much more memorable. Yet alone, I really do like the low mood, slower sound of You Won't Change Me. My least favourite is All Moving Parts Stand Still, or She's Gone. Either of those two. Actually, the more I think about it, I think it's She's Gone. Although All Moving Parts has never been one of my favourites on this album, really. But She's Gone, I think it's just got not very much attention for a lot of Sabbath fans in the first place. But anyways, that's Technical Ecstasy. My favourite being Dirty Women, and my least favourite is She's Gone. The next album, which is another underrated album that I like quite a bit, despite its flaws, Never Say Die. And my favourite is Air Dance. And I absolutely love the very different transitional styles of this track. Yeah, I know a lot of people will maybe pick the title track or even Johnny Blade, but I think that Air Dance is maybe the most underrated Sabbath song of all time. My least favourite is Breakout. I just really don't think that really fits in with the rest of the tracks, although I would have picked Over to You, which is really pedestrian to me, but Breakout, not one of the best. So there you go. That is the original 8 albums from Black Sabbath. Now we are going to move forward onto the Dio period right now. Next album, Heaven and Hell. It's a bit dusty, this one. I apologise. My favourite track on this album is Neon Nights. I mean, Children of the Sea, I would have put that one in there. Or, really, title track. But my favourite is just always Neon Nights. It really amplifies the adrenaline and the attention of how amazing this album is. And my least favourite will have to be Walk Away. Walk Away is very, very good, though. Not one of the tracks that stands out as much as the other ones. But there's just so much to really choose from on this album. It is a classic record. Neon Nights, though, just really takes it for me as my favourite. So, Neon Nights as my favourite. My least favourite is Walk Away. The next album, Mob Rules. My favourite track on this record, I will have to say, maybe The Sign of the Southern Cross. That is really doomy, but it is some of the best vocals that Dio's ever done, and guitar work from Iommi. It's just evil. And my least favourite, I mean, this may get controversial. I think Over and Over is my least favourite on this album. People will say about Country Girl, I really do like Country Girl a bit more. Over and Over is, to me, not as a stronger closing track. Well, besides the beautiful guitar playing from Iommi, but I think that Lonely Is the Word on this is better than Over and Over to me. So Mob Rules, very, very good album, by the way. So Sign of the Southern Cross is my favourite on the album, and my least favourite is Over and Over. Now, Born Again. My favourite track on this record is Disturbing the Priest or Born Again. It's really tough because Disturbing the Priest has one of Gillan's most insane vocals. But then there's Born Again. And I really like the very deep mood on this one. I think it would have to go to Born Again, the title track. And my least favourite, yet alone this has never been one of my favourite Sabbath albums, really. My least favourite, I would have to say, I think it's Zero the Hero. I just never got into this track. And not a lot from this album, really, to be honest with you. There are some tracks that I did like over time better. I do like Digital Bitch, and yet I did mention Disturbing the Priest, and I do like Hotline. Anyways, Born Again is my favourite track on this album, and my least favourite is Zero the Hero. 7 Star, the album that was meant to be a Tony Iommi solo album. My favourite track on this, some people say that this album is underrated, and for good reason, because I really enjoy this album. But my favourite will have to personally go to, I think, I think it'll have to be Danger Zone. And my least favourite is, I would pick the Sphinx instrumental that leads to 7th Star. So, there you go. Some people say about the ballad of No Stranger to Love. I don't care. I really enjoy that song. So yeah, Danger Zone's my favourite, and my least favourite is the Sphinx instrumental. Next album, The Eternal Idol, my favourite Tony Martin Black Sabbath album. The Shining is my favourite on this album, the opening track. I absolutely adore this track, and it's really my favourite Tony Martin Black Sabbath track in general. My least favourite, I think it has to go to Born to Lose. I think Born to Lose is a good track, but it's not one of the songs that I think stands strongly as the rest of this album does. I love this album. So, I think that The Shining is just there for me. Ever since I did discover Black Sabbath in the Tony Martin era, really for nostalgia reasons. The next album, Headless Cross. I need to rebuy this album, by the way, because there's just this really annoying noise that just keeps going on and on and on every time I play it. So I may have to rebuy this album, which pissed me off. Anyways, my favourite track on this album is Devil and Daughter. Really good, catchy drums and brilliant guitar work. And my least favourite, I'm one of those people that doesn't mind when death calls, but It's not one of the best tracks on this album, in my opinion. But my least favourite, I think, will have to be Kill in the Spirit World. So, it's a very good album, but I think The Eternal Idol is a way better album. Next record, Tear. I really do love a lot of this album as well. And my favourite track on this album, I mean, there's just loads of brilliant songs on here. The Sabbath Stones, Lawmaker, Valhalla, to Jerusalem, and Odin's Court. But my favourite, I think, it would have to go to Anu Mundi, the opening track, like The Shining. Anu Mundi has a beautiful introduction, those harmonies on the vocals, and it's a super big track with a lot of punch. And it's, to me, also, this album being another Sabbath album, one of the most underrated albums in the whole discography. Love this record, and my least favourite is Feels Good to Me. It's a totally different and opposite way what the rest of the album did sound like, and it kind of takes away that in a bit of a distraction for me. So anyways, that's Tear. Anu Mundi is my favourite on this album, and my least favourite Feels Good to Me. Dehumanizer. Now for this album, I think that this album is very underrated as well. Personally, still, I like this album a bit more than Mob Rules, and I know that's going to stir some people, but I don't care. For any purist who really just is a big fan of Mob Rules, I really like that album, but I think this album deserves a lot of the love as well. My favourite track on this record, I think there are some brilliant songs on this. Letters from Earth, Computer God. I think my favourite is Time Machine. Time Machine is really energetic, has some really strong performances, and my least favourite is, I think it has to be Too Late. Too Late as my least favourite. Yeah, Time Machine is my favourite. My least favourite is Too Late. The next album, Cross Purposes, and I don't need to say anything else than I'll have to say Psychophobia is my favourite on this album. I love this track. And there are some really good songs on this record as well. But my least favourite, I think it would have to be, I think, maybe Virtual Death or Dying for Love. I think this is a very solid album, underrated as heck, that people overlook this. Super expensive on vinyl, by the way, as well, like Headless Cross, because Headless Cross was an album that was not released to vinyl at the same time as it should have been when it came out. But anyways, really underrated record. Psychophobia is my favourite on this album, and for least favourite, I think it'll have to be Virtual Death for me as my least favourite. Now, the last album with the Tony Martin period, Forbidden. And my favourite track on this record is the title track, Forbidden. I think, being one of the heaviest sounding tracks, it's got a great groove to it, awesome riffs, even on its simplicity. And I don't need to tell you which track is my least favourite, because it's obvious. The Illusion of Power. That is, to me, the worst Black Sabbath song of all time. I really don't like the so-called chemistry, and it's really preachy, and I just don't dislike the song because of Ice-T. But I just think it's not a very good song. Not a very good song at all. And it feels really, really flat. Besides the other flaws I have with this album. But it is an album that I don't think is that bad. It's a very, very average album for me. and it is my least favourite Black Sabbath album overall. So here you go with Forbidden. The title track is my favourite, and The Illusion of Power, my least favourite. And now we go into the last album, 13. And I know people say they either like this album or don't like this album. Some Sabbath fans say this is the least favourite in their discography. But I really like a lot of this album still, especially when it came out. But my favourite track on this record, I think it has to go to Loner. I know it's like NIB, and I know most of this album is basically that Sabbath fans will say that they're just rehashing and repeating themselves of the first few albums, but I don't give a shit. That's their opinion, it's my opinion that I like this album. So Loner is my favourite on this album, and my least favourite, I think my least favourite could possibly be maybe either Live Forever or Damaged Soul. But I think this album still has a lot of positives for me, despite a few flaws. Now that I did re-review this album when I was reviewing Sabbath's discography, my least favourite, I personally will have to pick Live Forever as my least favourite, or maybe Damaged Soul. But Live Forever is one of those songs that I just don't think it's like that awesome, and with the second half being at a very passable move, and to follow up the first half. So yeah, I still like this album a lot. So there you go, guys. That is it for picking my favourite and least favourite song on all of Black Sabbath's albums. So do share yours. Share yours in the comments below, and I'm very curious at the same time for all of the Black Sabbath purists and fanatics out there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.